This moment got very tense. Representative Sara Jacobs asks Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth a direct and controversial question about President Trump's mental fitness, and what follows is a heated back and forth that quickly spirals beyond policy into personal and political territory.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, as you know, I represent San Diego, the largest military community in the country. Right now, as we are speaking, 2,500 San Diego Marines are off the coast of Iran. Many, many other San Diegans in uniform have gotten 48-hour deployment notices. So this war in Iran is not theoretical for me or for my constituents. It's deeply personal. As you also know, on Easter Sunday, President Trump threatened to destroy Iran's bridges and power plants, writing, quote, "Open the fucking strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch." And 2 days later, President Trump wrote, quote, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will." My office's phones have been ringing off the hook. I've heard from so many military families concerned about the president's mental fitness and whether he's fit to serve as our commander-in-chief, given that he's sending their loved ones into harm's way. Our troops, who have shown incredible bravery and tactical proficiency, deserve to know that their leaders are focused and stable. So, Mr. Secretary, you are with the president a lot, and it pains me to even have to ask this about our president, but my constituents' lives are at stake. Do you believe that the president is mentally stable enough to be the commander-in-chief?
Did you ask the same question of Joe Biden for 4 years?
Mr. Secretary, Joe Biden is not the president. Mr. Trump has been president for a year and a half, and I'm asking you right now.
And I won't even engage with the level of disparagement that you're putting on the commander-in-chief, who indeed is, every single day.
Mr. Secretary, Biden is not the president.
He's the sharpest, most insightful commander-in-chief we've had in generations. And you want to compare, you want to ask that question after you and your fellow Democrats defended Joe Biden, who could barely speak and didn't know what day of the week it was?
As you know,
he governed through an auto pen. You got a Secretary of Defense who went AWOL for a week. I can't be gone for 10 days, for 10 minutes.
I will reclaim my time.
Gentlelady's time. She's reclaimed it.
So, as Mr. Jimenez said, we should be taking leaders at their word. So is there a reason that we should not be taking our leader at his word?
Iran should not underestimate the will of President Trump and the United States military to achieve our mission.
Okay, well, I want you to know this is not a partisan thing. In fact, many Democrats have had, many Republicans have had these same questions. Marjorie Taylor Greene said he's out of control and he's gone insane. Candace Owens said the 25th Amendment needs to be invoked. Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, who you used to work with, Alex Jones, Stephanie Grisham, the list could go on. So how do I explain to my constituents that while they are in harm's way, their commander-in-chief is posting these unhinged posts?
How did you explain to your constituents what happened on October 7th? Or what happened in Afghanistan? Or what happened with the debacle and the withdrawal in Afghanistan, where the troops were left? How did you explain that with Joe Biden's leadership?
Mr. Secretary,
how did you explain that to the Marines that didn't get medals? That we restored their medals because of that disastrous withdrawal in Afghanistan? Did you explain that to your constituents when Joe Biden was asleep at the wheel and he had an AWOL Secretary of Defense?
How about this next post? How can I explain this next post to my constituents? I'm Jewish, so this doesn't really bother me, but my understanding is that this is quite offensive to many Christians. So how do you explain this post?
I'm not here to explain posts. We have an incredible commander-in-chief
who
puts our troops first. I'm here for a budget hearing about our troops.
This is
historic budget that's giving us a chance to defeat
Mr. Secretary,
our adversaries. President Trump is doing that in world-class fashion.
This is about our troops.
Reclaimed your time, Mr. Secretary.
This is about our troops. This is about who is commanding our troops and if our troops can trust that they are being sent into harm's way under good strategy. The mental stability of our commander-in-chief is deeply important to our troops. It's deeply important to this country. It
wasn't important to you during Joe Biden.
I'll remind you that when there were concerns, Democrats came together, and he was not our nominee for president. So I encourage you to have the same courage that Democrats had. Mr. Secretary, you keep saying that he is the best commander-in-chief we've ever had, the best negotiator.
Talk to the troops.
13 American troops have died. More than 380 have been wounded. The Strait of Hormuz, which was wide open, is now closed. Less than 90% of traffic through the strait is still not going despite the ceasefire. The Iranian regime is still in power. It still has nuclear material. The war is costing Americans billions of dollars. And Mr. Secretary, if you think that this is what winning looks like, then maybe we should be questioning your mental stability. Maybe you are the one responsible for this failure, and the president should think about replacing you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. I recognize the gentlelady from Virginia, Ms. Kiggins.
This exchange stands out immediately, not just because of the question asked, but because of what it represents. Representative Sara Jacobs begins by grounding her remarks in something very real: her constituents. She represents a district with a large military presence, and she emphasizes that decisions being made aren't abstract. They directly affect the lives of service members and their families. That framing matters, Because when she raises concerns about statements made by President Trump, she's not presenting it as partisan criticism. She's presenting it as a question of leadership under pressure. Specifically, she's asking whether the commander-in-chief is mentally stable enough to make decisions that could put American troops in harm's way. That's a serious question, arguably one of the most serious that can be asked in a hearing like this. But instead of answering directly, Secretary Pete Hegseth pivots. He responds by bringing up former President Joe Biden, essentially turning the question back on Jacobs and her party. This is a common political strategy, deflect by comparison, but it also signals something important. He's not going to engage with the premise of the question. Jacobs pushes back immediately. She makes it clear that Biden is not the current president and that her question is about the present situation. But by this point, the tone has shifted. What started as a focused question has turned into a broader political clash. Hegseth then doubles down, strongly defending President Trump, calling him one of the most insightful commanders-in-chief in generations. That's not just a defense, it's a full endorsement. And from there, the exchange escalates. Jacobs attempts to reinforce her point by citing concerns from a wide range of voices across the political spectrum. Her argument is that these concerns aren't isolated or partisan, they're widespread. But again, Hegseth doesn't engage directly with the concern about mental fitness. Instead, he pivots back to past leadership failures, particularly the withdrawal from Afghanistan. This creates a back and forth where both sides are essentially arguing different conversations, one about current leadership fitness, the other about past performance. And that disconnect fuels the tension. One of the most striking parts of this exchange is how neither side yields ground. Jacobs continues to press the issue of accountability and decision-making, especially in the context of military operations. She emphasizes that trust in leadership is critical when lives are on the line. Hegseth, on the other hand, repeatedly reframes the discussion around support for the troops and the administration's broader strategy. He avoids directly answering the central question, instead reinforcing his confidence in the president. Then comes the final escalation. Jacobs turns the argument directly toward Hegseth himself, questioning his judgment and suggesting that if he views the current situation as success, then perhaps his leadership should also be scrutinized. That's a sharp turn, and it brings the exchange to a boiling point. At that stage, the hearing is no longer about policy details. It's about credibility, leadership, and accountability at the highest levels. What makes this moment resonate is how it reflects a broader national conversation. Questions about leadership, decision-making, and rhetoric aren't confined to this room. They're happening across the country. And moments like this bring those questions into sharp focus.